Too much, guys? Okay, alright, cool. This week's video is about a stock market breakout, guys, which is like a crown jewel that every investor wants to happen to their stock, because it ultimately means more profits in your pocket as an investor. Yep. The only thing is, just like any precious stone in this world, guys, it is so hard to obtain, to find a stock just before it breaks out. It's hard. Not to blow my own trumpet, guys, but yeah, one of the stocks I own shares in, it seems like a breakout is around the corner for it. And also it has the second largest market cap in its group. Okay, maybe I'm doing this a bit too much. But in all seriousness though, guys, it seems like I've got a bit of a knack for stocks that are potential breakouts. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to explain what a breakout is and also explain how to spot a stock just before it breaks out. Because you know what that means? Breakout of stocks equals more money in your pocket. Remember that. So make sure to keep watching, guys.
You know what you're watching. DS Learning Finance. Whoa.
So starting off, what is a breakout? A breakout is when a lower ranked stock rises into a higher group of ranking stocks according to what the general consensus is of that stock with investors in the market. The stocks that investors believe in more and therefore are more likely to invest in are likelier to be in higher ranked groups than other stocks that aren't believed in that much, which will probably be in the lower ranked groups. In other words, they're ranked according to their market cap. For example, in the London Stock Exchange, we have the highest ranked group, which is the FTSE 100, and it has an MC, a market cap, no less than £4.8 billion roughly. So the stocks that tend to fit in the FTSE 100 tend to have a market cap that size or bigger. Whilst the FTSE 250, which is the next big dog in the stock market after the FTSE 100, has a market cap in between the region of 0.7 billion up to 4.8 billion. And so with a breakout, you're actually going from original group of stocks and you're moving to our upper group of stocks. So in this example, you would go from the FTSE 250 and you move straight up to the FTSE 100. That's a breakout. So you're moving from there to there, and that's what a breakout means. So when your stock does a breakout, it's a clear symbol that the market cap for that stock has increased, which can be led by two things. One, the number of stocks is increased, or two, the amount of money that investors have put into that stock has increased. It could be a combination of those two, or it could be a combination of either. Majority of the time when it comes to a breakout is the latter rather than the former. So you're basically getting investors to invest more money into the stock. And that's why a breakout's good, because what you're saying is this stock is so important that it's starting to catch the eyes of everyone else. And so obviously as demand increases, therefore so does the price, which means more profit in your pocket. And so you kind of want all of your stocks to experience a breakout, because it's such a telling sign that your stocks are rising in value. And also what you're saying is that you no longer have that false ceiling to push past. Now that you're into a bigger rank, higher rank group of stocks, you've now got a new limit to push past. So basically you're raising the potential of the stock of what it could be, which is also a good thing as well. Okay, now we're going to talk about the things that I like to look for in stocks that are a very good indication of whether that stock is going to experience a breakout in the near future. The first thing I like to do is look at stocks with their market caps just under the next level of group of stocks, basically. So if I was to invest in a stock that was in the FTSE 250 and wanted that stock to go through a breakout, what I'll do is I'll look at stocks that are in the FTSE 250 but are typically ranked around that 4.8 billion point. So that 4.8 billion pounds point, I might look at £4 billion, between that range, 4 to the upper range of the FTSE 250. I wouldn't typically go above 4.8 because then it's very likely that that stock actually is breaking out, but I would go slightly under. Ultimately, that with a combination of one other thing that I'm about to mention that dictates whether that stock is going to progress through and obviously break out. But don't get me twisted, this isn't all, it's just another thing to add to a checklist whenever I'm looking for a stock to invest. Honestly, this was how I was able to find JD Sports Fashion, which is currently in the FTSE 250 but has a market cap around the 4.8 billion mark. It's literally pushing for FTSE 100. So this is how I was able to find it, using this method. It's simple, but whilst I was doing that, I was also using another sort of checklist, another thing to note, which was growth. Basically, you want your stocks to grow, and that's the most valuable thing that will increase something in terms of share price, is how investors see that stock. If investors can see that a stock is growing in terms of revenue and profits year after year, it's only a matter of time before people start to pick up with this. And it's those two things in combination with each other that basically determine whether the stock is going to push. So having the two work hand to hand is a good recipe for potential breakout stock. But be wary of a false breakout, guys, which is basically where stock gives the impression that it is breaking out, but then falls back down to where it originally was. So back down to that original share price, back down to that original group of stocks that it was in. So you've got to watch out for those two. It's up to you guys to make sure you take the necessary precautions to ensure that a false breakout doesn't happen and a real true breakout actually happens to your stock. One thing I like to use to determine whether it's a real breakout happening or a false breakout happening is actually looking at how valued that stock is. It's so hard to find stocks that are growing in terms of revenue and in terms of profit year on year consecutively, and also have their market caps treading on water basically. And what's even rarer to find is basically stocks that have that but then are still unnoticed. So another tool that can give me a sort of indication of where that stock is valued is basically the PE ratio. And so a stock with a high PE ratio, which is overvalued, could indicate that yes, it's going to break out, cool, but it may not be sustainable because it's already got all this attention from the majority of investors. So there's very little growth, there's very little room for growth in terms of more investment, and that could hinder its performance. That can eventually make it recede back to where it originally was, i.e. false breakout. On the flip side, you could have a stock that has fits all these criteria, but also has a low PE ratio, which means that it's able to break out, but still it's gone unnoticed. So when investors do actually catch up with the times and realize what's going on with this stock, the potential it has, it's just going to fly through. It's going to completely blitz through, propel forward. And it's that sort of thinking that helps me determine whether it's a breakout for real or a false breakout, amongst other things. Now, yeah, there's another thing that you could use. I personally don't use it, but other investors have used it, which is the analysts that are on trading and stock trading platforms. They tend to give their sort of 2 cents. They tend to give their sort of what's the word? Not advice, but opinion on what they feel are potential breakouts in stocks. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're gonna be right, guys. Let me just add that in. That definitely doesn't mean that they're gonna be right. Just because they've been doing that for years and years and years, they could be doing it wrongly for years and years and years, or they could be doing it rightly for years and years. But I'll also add onto that as well, that it's not just you that's going to be reading these sort of tips that analysts give. It's tons of other investors. So there's a saying, by the time you've actually read the news, it's already too late to act in the stock market. Because it means that everyone's pretty much read it. And so any hopes that you had of getting there first, well, I'm sorry, you're going to be disappointed because you're going to be right at the back of the queue. And so ultimately it just forces you guys to kind of like think for yourselves, and yes, take what the analysts may say as a sort of starting point, but don't take it as gospel. Inquire yourselves, find out more. But regardless, guys, these little tips that I've told you in this video, well, except the last one with the analysts, because obviously I don't listen to them, I do what I want to do, look for myself. But like, excluding that, yeah, those little tips have basically taken me to the stage where I am now. And I'm fortunate because the second stock to ever have invested, guys, I was a newbie at this, ever have invested in, is now knocking on the door for a breakout. It's mad. I'm absolutely gassed, guys. I'm so happy about that because it shows that I've got the ability to find stocks amongst others, and amongst like hundreds, literally hundreds of stocks, I'm able to find a handful number of stocks, and they are producing. They are producing for me. They're being productive. They're being profitable. They're being the best in their categories, and that's just mind-boggling. But ultimately, guys, what works for me might not work for you. You've got to find your own zen, you've got to find your own flow. But what I'm just trying to sort of get you in the mind frame of understanding is that it's not looking at one particular thing that determines, okay, this is the stock to invest in. No, it's a combination of things. What you want to do is actually get as much information as possible. Guys, you want to get as much information from here, there, and everywhere to give you a good indication of where that stock will be. And ultimately, that's taken me to where I am now. It's the adequate amount of research and work I've put into finding these stocks that have made me be in this fortunate scenario. So you know what that means, guys. No skipping research. Yeah, you can't take shortcuts. You've got to do it the long way and the more tedious way, because that way you can get the most information possible. You can get the best judgment on whether a stock is actually a good stock to invest in or not. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and make sure to keep an eye out on my channel, because you know there's only more coming, people. You know, it's your favorite YouTuber, guys, Dammy Solario. I talk about stock market investments, property investments, financial management too, giving you guys that consistent content, you know. Before you guys can go about doing whatever you're going to do for the rest of the day, say it with me: like, subscribe, and share, people. What? DS Learning Finance. Whoa. Bye, guys.
Whoa.
Ha!